Hi everyone, thank you for your time today. My name is Kathryn Juliano.
And I'm Charlie Shaw.
And we're both animal keepers at the Smithsonian's National Zoological Park in Washington, D.C. Today we're going to talk about a research project we're working on where we're monitoring lion health through tail training. So the purpose of our whole project is to collect blood pressure data and blood samples from our collection of 3.3 African lions. Our collection of lions, they're all related. We have 3 parents and then there are 3 offspring. And we're trying to collect various measures like blood pressure and blood samples because they're really reflective in animals' health. They can help us learn about different things that are going on inside of their body. Certainly blood tests, we can get a lot of different diagnostic information. Blood pressure as well can help us certainly see cardiac issues. But both of these can really help us monitor renal issues, which is definitely an issue with older cats. We do have 3 geriatric cats. So it's really great that we can get information about that. And when we obtain blood pressure data and blood samples through training while they're awake, it allows us to get more preemptive information and provide them with more accurate care based on the information we can get. So beyond just benefiting the health of our individual cats, we're trying to start to establish a record of average blood pressure rates for lions in general. There's not a lot of information collected on conscious cats. Actually, I don't know if we have any really solid sources that use data on conscious cats. Most of what we found is on unconscious cats where they're collecting data while they're asleep for exams. So it's pretty interesting that we can collect data on conscious cats. We hope to in the future add information from other institutions as well, especially because our 6 lions are all related, so we can get a wider range of datas. And then this information could be used as kind of a baseline or a reference for lions and other animals, other cats, throughout our country and certainly other countries as well. And again, this information can help lead to detect potential problems, can help us detect potential problems earlier on. It's just good preventative healthcare for any animal. And when we can collect this information through training, there's way less of a need to knock cats down to obtain these samples. It's definitely less stress for the individuals, better welfare, because we all know a procedure for an animal where they're knocked under with anesthetic can be very stressful for them, but it also reduces the human time and the cost required to take care of them as well. So for our overall process to start this project, obviously most of it focuses on animal training. It wouldn't work if our animals weren't trained to participate in this. Here at the zoo, we are only using positive reinforcement training. Our cats always have the opportunity to get up and to leave a session. But these cats, like I said, some of them are geriatric, so they know a lot of different behaviors. They have a lot of experience with training. So when we started, we were using already established behaviors. At our zoo, we call it line up, which just means that they put their body along a panel of mesh in the front, and then touch where they're used to expect different touches at different places in their body without reacting negatively. We started working on exposing the different cats to the use of a snake hook to retrieve their tail on the tail cue. So we have a little flap, we'll see a video, but we have a little flap under the enclosure so we can get just their tail out, and we would stick in a snake hook, get them used first to just being touched, and then use the snake hook to actually pull their tail out of the enclosure. And at this point, almost all of the cats will just put their own tail outside of the enclosure on the cue. And then once the tail is out, we just worked on extending the amount of time that the tail would be out and how the cat would allow the tail to be manipulated. So instead of just touching it for longer periods, squeezing, poking with different instruments. We used blunt needles, we used our fingernails so that they were prepared for a wide variety of touches and for a long time. So to train specifically for blood pressure, we have our own blood pressure machine that's used for dogs and cats, and it has different size cuffs. So we started by practicing by just placing the cuff on their tail without running the machine. Because the machine, takes 30 seconds or longer to actually collect measurement. And then once they were used to just having it put on, we would extend the time. They all were pretty good at this point, and we're pretty okay with the cuff actually being placed on them. And then we worked on running the machine to obtain data. When we first started, we would get maybe 1 reading per session. But now we're at the point where with individual cats, we could get at least 5 readings. And it's really dependent on food. If we had an endless supply of food, I think they would sit there for a really long time. But we generally limit it to about 400 grams of food for each of these sessions, unless we really need some information. So we're definitely limited by food. It's us, it's not them. And here we have a video where we're demonstrating the behavior. This is one of our older females, and that's me on the left and Charlie on the right.
This is just a small sample of the data we've collected so far while doing the blood pressure data collection. This is all the different lions, and what we're trying to see is the differences between the lions, as well as keeping track of if there's any like sudden changes. One of the reasons why we started doing this because one of our lions actually started experiencing nosebleeds, and one of the things the vet said was a good thing to keep track of was her blood pressure. So this is where this all started from. And it's been interesting so far trying to see how things are impacted by like whether activity or age, because I was kind of expecting, like personally, was expecting like maybe the older girls to have a lower heart rate since they're older, and then our younger female lion to have like a higher heart rate because she's constantly go, go, go. But it's been kind of weird that it was the opposite of that. So we're learning a lot, and it'll be interesting to see if everything we're seeing here kind of ties together in some way, because all these cats are related in one way or another, versus once we're able to maybe reach out to other institutions to compare our data to theirs. So that'll be the whole point in trying to collect other data and get that better average type vibe instead of just our little family over here. So this is the process for collecting blood. It's very similar to the blood pressure one, just different end goal basically. So it's the same thing, continuing the tactile manipulation with tails, but instead of going forward with kind of wrapping their tail with the blood pressure cuff, we're instead going to move forward with pokes and like pinches and all that to try and get them used to the feeling of when the vet comes to take blood. Another step we took with that was bringing in the vet tech, so there was 3 of us working with the lion, because one of our lions is a little not too happy to have too many people around, so to get them used to having several people there before we started moving forward toward the actual blood draw. And the cats have been doing great in that the vet's able to actually redirect the needle or do an additional injection if needed, which you'll be able to see in the next video. I think our vet tech was actually too good, so there's no redirect, but
That worked. That was cute. A Malay tail.
I call you a little bit.
back up a little bit quick. Yeah, you want to, and I may end up taking it away from you. I don't know why.
It's totally fair. Whatever you need to do.
I would like to okay.
I feel like it's not a day in this building that I don't want to be somewhere. So that's not a great example of redirecting and having to do a re-injection because our vet tech Jane Hutchinson is just such a professional. But it's a good representation of how the cats are because she stays still the entire time and allows us to mess with her tail and do the poke and everything. So when we do the redirects and re-sticks, she's great about just sitting there. All the cats have been amazing the further along we go with this, but like any training, if she decides she's done, doesn't want to do it anymore, she can leave whenever she wants. Okay. So some of the recent findings we found from the blood work we've been collecting from the cats is our geriatric lion Luke is found to have increasing kidney values. And because we're aware of this, we can keep more of a closer eye on him to make sure he's still doing okay, and we can watch out for early signs of kidney failure or renal failure, anything in that category. And we're able to perform more routine blood work checks to keep up with those values to see if they are continuing to increase, if we're seeing a sudden spike or anything like that, so we can provide more adequate care, because you know cats and their kidneys tend to just very suddenly go. So it's really nice to be able to keep track of it and keep an eye on it as we go along. So future projections for our project, we want to collect 2 years worth of data in order to establish a conscious blood pressure average. That will only account for our 4 lions for the time being. So we would eventually like to expand into other institutions to get their data for conscious blood pressure data. Since all of our lions are related, and so there could be a similarity between the 4 of them, maybe another set of lions that are related elsewhere could have something different going on. So it'll be nice to get an idea of an average, multiple different lions instead of just a little family group. And because our lions are so good, not to brag, but because they're doing so well, we're able to offer training opportunities. So like in this photo here, we had a vet tech student come to visit, veterinary student, and she was able to get her hands on and look for veins and all that. Because the cats are doing so well, it gives her a chance to kind of figure things out while still maintaining her training, which is really nice. And hopefully to encourage other institutions to be a part of it, we can offer these opportunities to them as well to come over and be like, hey, come get your hands on this cat, and we can go from there. And that's it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thank you.